I was trying to think of a video idea for this week when I was scrolling on the internet and I found out that Kraven is finally out, much to my surprise. And so I set out to watch the film. And it's definitely a movie, that's for sure. But one thing remains in my mind after watching it. I'm not craving for any more Sony movies after this. Oh.
When the man comes around.
There will be spoilers in this review if you even care about watching it, so do go watch it and come back. Now usually at this point in my review, I recap the plot of the movie, but there's one big issue with this movie and that there is no plot, but I'll do my best to explain what I witnessed. Basically, Kraven is a hunter.
Say that again?
Who has superpowers that he gained when a hunting venture went wrong and he was attacked by a lion and then this liquid was dropped in him and he gained powers. He's also mad at his father for treating his mother horribly and he runs away as a teen to become the hunter. Basically, as a hunter he's known for being a guy who never misses his target. Once you're on the list, there's no way of getting out. The only way to get off the list is to die. And as a result, the rhino kidnaps his brother to piss off Kraven's dad but also to get his name off the list, and that goes about as well as you think it does. It turns out that the rhino was hired by Kraven's dad to kidnap his brother, which is, yeah. Then we find out that Kraven's brother is the Chameleon, setting up a sequel despite Sony not making any more of their movies for the indefinite future. Now, as I said, the movie quite literally has no plot, because for the first hour of this movie nothing happened. Kraven just kills a bunch of people and he's just mad at his father. That was essentially all I remember from the first half. Then the second half is about the kidnapping, but because it's only really an hour, it just sort of goes through it really quickly. Had the kidnapping been the entire plot, then perhaps it might have been more interesting. This does make me question whether this film had a plot in the first place, or was it just made for the sake of being made? I mean, I hate to break it to you, but even Morbius had more of a plot than this, because in that movie there was sort of that rising conflict between Milo and Morbius throughout. I think Sony's plan is just to make every other film post Morbius awful besides Venom, just to make Morbius seem like a work of art. But there are some good things to this movie as well. The first thing is the action. This is probably the best action in a Sonyverse movie so far. Like, the Venom movies still had the R rating, but the action in those movies was still heavily reliant on CGI. But this movie had more of the Deadpool-esque violence that wasn't too bad to watch. Like, he uses a bear trap to kill a guy, which is creative and it does work with the character. Another thing worthy of praise is Aaron Taylor-Johnson's Kraven, really. Like, he plays the character really well, and he does sort of get a redemption for well.
You didn't see that coming.
And I was kind of hoping he'd say the line in the movie, but he didn't.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Seeing all these different Spider-Man villains was also really cool. Like, obviously we had Kraven, but also Rhino, the Chameleon, and even a guy with time skip powers like Hit from Dragon Ball Super, which after a quick Google search I find out his name to be the Foreigner. I said it was cool to see these characters, but by no means were they actually good. Somehow they managed to fumble the Rhino for the second time, and it was even worse the second time. Like, he doesn't really get any time to actually be the Rhino, which is why I was saying that if the kidnapping had been the whole plot of the movie, then perhaps we might have got multiple fights as the Rhino, but instead we just get one and he gets beaten really easily. The Chameleon reveal also felt really weird, and I mean, people who know the backstory of Kraven do know that the Chameleon is the half-brother of Kraven, so it wasn't much of a shock. The real shock was seeing them actually show his true form, which was kind of cool, and also his character was built up throughout the movie to turn into the Chameleon, which was also probably one of the best parts of the movie. But it just felt out of place, like they were setting up a sequel that was gonna explore the conflict between the brothers, but then like 3 days before the movie releases they cancelled the entire movie universe. So this now goes on the list of movie teasers that will never get paid off on screen, because if we eventually do get Kraven and Chameleon in the MCU, they will most likely be with different actors, meaning that this entire scene was pointless. And also the time stopping guy was defeated so easily, and it's actually just annoying. Like, he has the most overpowered power, like he can put the person he's fighting against into a trance and then just appear behind them and shoot them, and only really someone with like a spider sense or like a sixth sense could stop him. But nope, he gets an arrow to the eye from Calypso, and I've completely forgotten about Calypso in this review because she does nothing. Is she there as a love interest, or is she there to explain his powers to him? I don't really know. They tried to do something with her, but nothing happens with her. Like, there's this whole thing with her grandma, but it doesn't work, and it does seem as though most of the story with her was being set up for a spin-off movie or a sequel, but again, they won't happen, so it's kind of just open-ended really. My one main gripe about this movie was the runtime, because this movie for some reason has a runtime over 2 hours. Like, why? It felt longer than it should have, and they could have cut down on most of the first hour and instead added more scenes of Calypso giving her backstory of Kraven's powers and the herb liquid thingy and her relationship with her grandmother than they did just showing Kraven killing people. And also, had they cut down like 30 minutes of the first half, they could have explored the kidnapping into more depth and made it into a more well-rounded movie and didn't have to leave unanswered questions. But ultimately, this film banks on most of its main plot being used to set up a sequel with Kraven or a spin-off with Spider-Man or a Calypso movie or a Chameleon movie, but then Sony kind of doomed the movie from the start by just cancelling its entire universe. And along with the lack of hype, poor marketing for this movie damages the movie even further, not even really giving it a chance. And the thing is that this movie isn't a bad movie or a bad concept, it was just so boring. Kraven is one of the very few Spider-Man characters that you can make a movie about without Spider-Man in, but they still fumble it just because they did. But it is definitely way better than Madam Web, but maybe not better than Morbius. But that's a sentence I never thought would come out of my mouth, but ultimately I give this movie like a 4.75 out of 10. But do comment below your thoughts and subscribe whilst you're there.